Hello, and welcome to Trailer Breakdown. I'm doing a video version of this as well as a text version, just so you can sort of see it in action. I can only show you the clips normally, this way you can see where it slots into the trailer. So, today I'm doing Doctor Who Series 6, also I'm calling it The Bearded Doctor Cometh. That was probably the most awesome part of the trailer, but I'll get into it more when we get through it. So, without much more hesitation, let's begin with this trailer breakdown. This first one is a hard one to place, which probably isn't a good sign this early in, but it seems like the gaming episode, just purely because of the aesthetic look of the place and the style and dress is similar to eye dresses. It doesn't quite fit in with the later things that I'm going to be connecting to the gaming episode, but then again, it almost looks...
I've been running.
Once again, this one is tough to place, but it seems to be either from episode 3, with the allusions to war games, or episode 7, because of the lack of information. It just kind of makes it a possibility. Hooray! An easy one. Since Amy's dressed in the exact same clothes as the obvious USA one from before, which we'll see a little later on in this video, it's obviously from episode 1/2. Can't place it in either of those, so just got to accept that it's from one of the two.
I've ever run.
Since this one has the character called Idris in it, it's made fairly simple. Idris has been already promised to be in the gaming episode, as well as that there appears to be in a junkie sort of setting, so I'm going to kind of put that as the third episode, just because from what we know, it seems the most likely. Okay, this one I'm going to detail a bit because it's kind of specific. This is going to be from the very beginning of the very first episode of Series 6. The hanging plastic and construction setting match that of the images with River being cornered by Mark Sheppard that have been circulating about a month ago. As well as that, the released dialogue those two have upon that setting makes this interpretation highly likely. We can't see Mark, and I honestly can't see him in any of these clips, but we know he's there and we know this is what the place is supposed to look like. I doubt they reused the set.
For me to stop.
This is obviously episode 1/2, and I'm thinking it could be the end of episode 1, but I'm not set on that yet, so I'll put it as either, honestly. But this ties extremely in, and I'm telling you this is absolute. This one goes straight to the scene of Doctor talking about the Fez and the Jammy Dodgers, alright? This scene, however, does not. I'll split this part up just to point out this is different, obviously different, and I'm guessing from later, but it will be part of the same two-parter. Possibly this person is confronted by one of the aliens in the... I honestly don't know, it's just kind of hard to read once again.
You need a SWAT team ready to mobilise, street level maps covering all of Florida, a pot of coffee, 12 jammy Dodgers and a fez.
However, obvious scene is obvious. This does come in as the second most awesome part of the trailer though, so that's pretty good.
Somewhere different, somewhere brand new. I wear a Stetson now. Stetsons are cool.
Just to take time out to talk about the trailer setup itself, because this one again is pretty easy, you may have noticed that there is a growing trend towards the American clips in this trailer. That's not entirely weird considering that it will be the first 2 episodes. However, I'd also put this down a bit to the American push that they're trying to do at the moment. I mean, Moffat seems to be really after this American market. And I can completely understand that. This should be a show they could get into. I'm an Australian and I love it. And we have a very similar thing to the Americans. I mean, it's a bit weird. We love their programs. It's odd. I mean, I'm personally a British person, but... Anyway, sorry. So, that could also be what we could put this sort of trend down to. I don't know. Remember before how I talked about Amy's attire being so obviously from the Utah episode? Well, here is that obvious proof. I also want you to memorise the look of Rory in this scene, since that's going to come up later too.
We've been recruited.
And before I finish speaking of clothes, watch Rivers as well, as I'm definitely positively mind-fuckingly sure that this is going to come back.
Recruited by...
I've split this one off simply because the jump cut makes it really hard to tell if this is 2 different things. And I don't trust these trailers enough to not expect some kind of misdirection. Also, while there is some murmurings this episode will be about clones in an office block, I kind of have to refuse to believe that. I mean, just off this footage, the Doctor looks to be ambiguously real. And to not explore this in a Amy's Choice style way, where we don't know which one's real and which one's not, would just be a real waste. And P.S., remember how I said that that one was the second most awesome scene? Yeah, this is the most awesome scene.
You're going to have to trust.
Okay, I put this one here for one simple reason. River is dressed as she was in the American clip. Just look, and it seems too large a coincidence to ignore. However, if I am proved wrong, I will admit that this may be from the 7th episode, since having an alternate TARDIS would be a good game-changing twist. But again, from the look, from the clothing, I have to put this at 1 or 2.
Dust this time.
Why hello, Idris. I imagine seeing... Well, hello, Idris. Imagine seeing you here. Yeah, once again, just based off the casting, this is very obviously episode 3.
To do this.
Okay, this clip is starting to give me ideas about this episode. If you'll notice, the light behind the astronaut is the same as the light that was behind our Nazi friends before. And since it seems to be that house that Amy is stuck in later clips, which does suffer from the same lighting issues, I'm going to call these altogether as a set from the same episode. Whether or not I have the episodes right or not remains to be seen, but these are all combined in together.
You can't ask why.
Why, hello, Amy's clothes. You look very Amy's clothes, like Amy's clothes from the first 2 episodes. Amy's clothes, Amy's clothes, Amy's clothes. Honestly, clothes are actually making this job a little bit simpler now, so keep an eye on them. And speaking of clothes, take a nice little look at what Rory is wearing. This is the same costume as you'll see in those running corridor shots later. Thus, since his costume back with Utah Amy was different to that corridor costume, Utah Amy from 2 seconds ago and this clip are different clips. Once again, the editing is trying to be tricky. This is a different clip with explosions, putting this in episode 7, which again just has, if we have the TARDIS in it, although I'm still considering it for 1 and 2, just throws the whole mind buggery that Moffat wants to do up to whole new gears. And here's that strange Gaiman episode lighting that I was talking about. Also, since Gaiman has reported that his episode will take place in a dollhouse, and this definitely looks like the one that was probably owned by those 2 freaky little girls from The Shining, this seems to all be tying up kind of nicely. Also, if you'll notice behind Amy, you can see that part of the word out, and from earlier you can see the full word out, as well as something that I thought looks like a C, but I've had someone tell me might be a G. So the suggestion is behind her, it says get out, which I will have to agree with the popular consensus on that. It seems most likely. Okay, once again Rory's costume clinches this one, since the blue Marty McFly life preserver look is used in the future clip about them running through the corridor, so this all seems to tie in nicely for me at least. And I know it's not a good sign when the person who is making this thing throws up his hands and gives up, but I honestly have to. This is just so nondescript that it makes it extremely hard. I mean, I guess it could be 1 and 2 because that's where River comes in, but the weirdness of the scene makes me think it might be 7. But the fact she's naked, like a freshly made clone would be, makes me think that this might be an appearance that she makes in episode 5/6. Look, just consider this one me surrendering, because I have no bloody idea. I'm going on down to Utah tonight, And wow, that obvious canyon in Utah does look really nice though. And here is that infamous jacket that I referred to a minute ago. As you can see, this looks a lot like a foreign corridor that may be inside that weird TARDIS from before. However, that would mean those clothes wouldn't match up with episode 1/2. And since River was in that TARDIS, which I'm certain about, she's only confirmed for 1 and 2 or 7. That leaves me to put this at 7 if it relates to the TARDIS. If it doesn't, this still does not seem to have any good relations to the cloning episode, the Gaiman episode, or even the China doll episode, which I'll come back to. So I'm just putting it there for now. Oh, by the way, if you're wondering why I stopped the trailer at that moment and that spot just a little bit ago, it was meant to be pointing out that Rory was chasing Amy, and not the Doctor, as some people assume he might be. Why do people assume this? Well, a little later on you'll see the Doctor through a slit in a door. At this point, Rory looks to be looking through a slit in the door, so most people are putting these two together. However, he's chasing Amy. The connotation is that he's following Amy. Again, there are some jump cuts, which means that it could definitely be, but I don't think that we can set this down just yet as an obvious pick. Gotta say, of all the things that Davies came up with, or came from his series that weren't Moffat related, the Ood were definitely one of the ones that I did enjoy seeing. They were an interesting group, something that was nice to sort of look at. But as you can see in this scene, that green light in the background and the general aesthetic markers make this look a lot similar to the Lifesaver Rory episode. The confirmation of these dolls as the enemy for episode 4 makes this really easy. But to stop the people who use this to question my judgment, just roll back a bit and compare the Ood corridor to this one. They look nothing alike, okay? And through the magical changing of Rory's shirt, we once again cement that these dollies definitely have nothing to do with that episode. Okay? You know, I'm just getting the feeling that someone really does need to come in and fix the lighting in that house. It's really bad.
My life in your hands, Amelia Pond.
Hello, Utah Amy. Your clothes are once again making this relatively simple for me. Although I must say you do make a pleasant image to look at. While I'm not going to throw up my hands and surrender, as I did for the river clip before, I make no promises on this one, since the tightness of this shot makes it so hard to make anything out. But since we only see the doors closing like this in episode 7 clip, I guess it's possible. But again, you could have doors like this in anything. I'm equally going to put it for the clone one, because I've seen so few images from that in this trailer. Then again, I think the clone was one of the recently filmed ones, so it's iffy at best.
You see these eyes? They're older.
Oh, for God's sake, someone call an electrician already! Look, maybe there's even a Gallifreyan one out there, known as the Electrician, who flies around with a static soldering iron. Get him in or something! Just fix the damn lights already! Jesus!
And one thing
As alluded to before, the plastic and general construction equipment make this from the same set of filming as the Mark Sheppard episodes before.
can tell you.
Okay, the clothing here matches the Utah ones from the start, so once again, Rory's clothing makes this a relatively simple one to work out.
Monsters.
Now this one is going to be one of my favourite parts to do, because I get to shatter all the dreams of you little Whovians out there who've enjoyed this. I personally saw this and I thought, Area 51, brilliant. And then I thought, The Silence, brilliant. But looking back at it now, especially after taking apart this trailer, I'm terribly sorry to say, this is neither. This is some hallucination, much like the astronauts and much like the Nazis from Gaiman's episode. I'm terribly sorry for anyone who believes otherwise. But look at the lighting, look at the setup. This does not relate to the previous look. This is something different. I am so sorry if you've got your hopes worked up for that first episode, but this has nothing to do with it. Terribly sorry.
The real.
And that's the trailer breakdown. I hope it's been enjoyable and helpful for everyone who's been listening out there. Now, if you have any comments that you'd like to leave telling me I'm an idiot, I'm wrong, anything like that, I'm more than happy to hear them. Please leave them below. But again, this has been, this has been the gentleman doing a trailer breakdown. I hope it's been helpful. Thanks.